Subject this morning, the metaphysical cause of war. This subject of war, and especially the problem of lasting peace, weighs heavily on the hearts of all. We all believe in peace on earth and the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. And saints and sages throughout the ages have promulgated this theory. They hoped, of course, it would be put into operation practically. But theory alone is not sufficient. It must be followed with realization of these idealisms. If we follow through and know what is behind these theories, the brotherhood of man, then it will come about. It will come to pass. But it will not come if you just stay in the realm of theory. No more than any subject will come to pass unless you make it your own and make it real within you, because you are one of the many, many people upon earth. And so, ordinarily, the worldly point of view of wars is seen in fear, selfishness, greed, and pressures, economical pressures put on people because of these things. And then we have the falling away, the retreat of morality and right living. That takes place naturally in favor of wrong thinking, wrong action, vice, and wars. Because behind the war is the cause. And the cause in the ordinary worldly sense is as I have spoken. Because in people we find greed, selfishness, and these lead to these economical conditions which demand to be righted. And so the world takes ways and means to right these things, to right these conditions. But that is not the real way. There is something missing. Peace does not come, as you all know, through war. We have seen that in 2 world wars. Peace does not come that way, but peace comes another way. And it is because of this metaphysical lack of something within us as members of the human family that wars come, and that lasting peace is not with us. Let us understand that. In worldly living, nations, because of their approach to the matter from a worldly standpoint, use brute force. And, of course, this brings about certain results, but not lasting peace. War stops because of the pressure of brute force and economic pressures, but lasting peace is not the result. That's the thing we must understand, and that's why the metaphysical cause of war is something different than these things of which I have spoken of. The metaphysical cause of war is that within each and every one of us we do not feel the peace of the presence of God. That's the cause, nothing else. We do not feel oneness with Him. Therefore, to bring about peace on earth and the cessation of war, the hearts of men must be changed. The hearts of men must be changed. I remember Master talked to President Coolidge a long time ago, and they were talking about disarmament at that time. And the Master said to me, he said, don't you believe that if you take away the battleships, that they'll find something else to fight with? And Cal says, yeah, guess so. They will. They'll fight with sticks and stones and their fists or anything. But when the hearts of men are changed so that they feel the peace of God, then lasting peace will come upon earth. And then when you feel the presence of God within you, when your heart has been changed by the touch of His love, you realize that there is one blood flowing through every one of us. One blood, and that blood is the blood of God, His great consciousness, one truth, one life, one love. Feeling that, then you can consider others as your brothers, and feeling that, how can you take up arms against them? And so the metaphysical cause of war is this lack of peace within the hearts of each and every one of us. That's the real cause. It is that which produces these other causes of which we are familiar, which lead to war. Selfishness, greed, and economic pressures, political conditions. Why? Because in the hearts of men there is not that love of the infinite. God's love, if that comes in the hearts of men, will be changed. And so when we are apart from God, when we are apart from Him, when we are separated from Him, do not feel a unity of His presence, this leads to darkening delusion, causing men to take up these outward means of trying to rectify conditions of force, political pressures, and so forth. That's why. But when you meditate, contact God, and feel one with Him, then the darkening delusion disappears, and you will not take up those methods, outward methods, which only make matters worse. You'll take up the real implement of war, or to cause the cessation of war and bring lasting peace, which is God's love in your heart. So that's the metaphysical cause of lack of peace, because our hearts do not know it. The hearts of men must be changed. And so, although men, due to the darkness of delusion, take on outward methods to try to bring peace, lasting peace, it won't work. It does not work. It will not do. I think we all agree with that. We know there have been 2 world wars. What's the result? Better conditions? I don't think so. Worse conditions. Because that simple rule has not been followed. The hearts of men have not been changed. And why have they not been changed? Because they have not allowed the healing presence of God's love to flow through them. And if they did that, feeling one with Him, then the world conditions would change due to the pressure of God's presence in the hearts of so many of His people. The power of God's love is supreme. And even though you cannot speak or cannot exert your influence in places where others or many will hear you, you can, by receiving the presence of God in your heart, do more toward bringing lasting peace than if you talked on the radio 12 hours a day, so to speak. Just by tuning in yourself with the presence of God, He's the one. His power is supreme. It has made universe upon universe. It has stopped wars when there seemed to be no cessation, if you look back through history. And so if you and I and more people turn to God and allow His healing power to flow through you, that channel, yes, of you, the simple child of God, that channel will do more than all the politicians put together, because God's power is supreme. He just wants a channel, because He has given us free will. He wants a channel through which He can work freely, because we have accepted Him. And so do not think, oh, there's no use. We can't do anything. Too many politicians. Yeah, I'll agree with you there. There are too many of them. But we outnumber them, don't we? Because not all the people in the world are politicians in the way we accept it, but all can feel the presence of God and understand that if you feel God's love flowing through you, you are exerting more pressure for good on the earth than all the politicians put together. Didn't Jesus say, or in the scriptures we read, if I found 10 men in those 2 cities, I would not have destroyed them. That's the power which he was referring to. And so do not lose hope, but regularly meditate, feel the presence of God, feel his love in your heart. You are doing much more than all of them put together. All of the statesmen. They are not statesmen. Those who feel the presence of God are the real statesmen. God is the one. Be an instrument through which his love can flow through you to bring about lasting peace and to change the hearts of men. You see a person in the world who is a vile character, of no good reputation, suddenly changes and becomes a worthwhile citizen. Why? Because he found out he needed one thing. He needed the presence of God. And that changed him. That resurrected his consciousness. That's what will do it, nothing else. But the power of delusion and outward living is strong. It is made that way because of the cosmic dream, the character of the cosmic dream. But we must rise above that as children of God, enjoy it as we would enjoy a movie without attachment, but working all the time to bring about the kingdom of God. I remember Master once told me, he says, we have to take our stand. Unless we use all our power, and I have told you the greatest power, in bringing about the kingdom of good, the kingdom of evil will rule, will reign. So we have an obligation to God to do our part, and the part is to receive him. He has made universe upon universe, world upon world. All the cells of the little flowers and you and me, all made from him, from his consciousness and energy. He can do the necessary things. All we have to do is not to obstruct him and be a channel through which his power and love can flow. And so it gives you a different idea about resisting war. Let him flow through you to change the hearts of men. And if enough of us do that, it will change the world consciousness without question of a doubt. I have 2 references to give you at this time to show you, to substantiate perhaps by the Master's words the few points that I have just brought before you. First, from the autobiography, those of you who'd like to read it a little more thoroughly, page 451. And here we read that resort to war, and the great war of World I, has not brought tranquility, said Franklin Roosevelt. It did not bring tranquility. Victory and defeat are alike sterile. That lesson the world should have learned. And then the more weapons of violence, the more misery to mankind, Lao Tzu taught. The triumph of violence ends in a festival of mourning. How true that is. Think of the shattered homes and hearts after the last 2 wars. Was there any good that came out of it? These words are true. And then on page 447, the grim march of world political events points inexorably to the truth that without spiritual vision the people will perish. And that spiritual vision simply means to meditate and contact God. Then you'll have the spiritual vision. But we lackadaisically go on in this worldly existence, not giving God as much time as we should. So let us realize that. Wake up. We have to do our part. We're responsible to God to do that much. But the wonderful part of it is that it's blissful when you do it. It's not like doing worldly things. Some we enjoy a little bit. Others we dislike them very much. We have to do them to eat. And yet we should realize we have to and should do these things for God because he is our very existence, our very life itself. Science, if not reason, or religion, science, if not religion, has awakened in humanity a dim sense of insecurity. All this material creation resolves into energy and light, and so do we. Even that should wake us up. But that light and the consciousness of God does not pass away like this worldly existence does. Science is pointing that out, and we are insecure here. Let us turn to God where there is security. Where indeed may man go now, if not to his source and origin, the spirit within? Material things do not last. Science shows it in a scientific way. We have only one way to go, and that's toward immaterial things, toward the presence of God, toward the spirit within, which is God himself in us. And so, man, to achieve lasting peace, must turn to God. He must remove the idea of separation from God. That's the whole business. That's the whole outcome of all these techniques you do. And I hope and I know many of you do them regularly. Keep on. The reason and the goal is to remove the idea that you are here and God's there, and to bring in the truth and the realization that you and God are one. Now, if you can do this, if you can do that, then the hearts of men will be changed and lasting peace will come upon earth. And how to do that? What is the method? Meditation. Meditation means concentration on the presence of God within. Meditation will take you into his presence, and then the darkness of delusion, of worldly thinking will pass away, and the destructive emotions which lead to violence and hate and those things which bring on war will be disseminated. Such is the power of God's love. But unless you meditate, you cannot know that. But through meditation, which, as I have said, means concentration on God, then you will have an idea of what God truly is, not just a false idea of this and that, made this, made that, he does all things, but a definite force. And that force is God's love within you. And having that definite force, you will change, and in turn, through God's law, you will change those with whom you come in contact. In our prayer we say, Heavenly Father, may thy love shine forever. And may I be able to awaken that love in the hearts of others. How are you going to awaken it? Unless you know God. You see how simple it is? But if you feel the presence of God in you, his love does the awakening. His love does the arousing of your heart to the receiving of God's great love. Then your heart will be changed, and as more and more turn toward God, it'll be more difficult and more difficult to bring about wars and such conditions. And so irrespective of color, caste, or creed, we all are children of God. But unless through meditation you feel the blood of the infinite Father as his consciousness and energy flowing through you, especially his love, unless you feel that, you will not feel the same toward all, irrespective of color, class, or creed. But when that magic power of God flows through you, then you feel his love in the whole mass of his creation, including all of his children. That's what does it. You may have those ideals in a theoretical way. Yes, I love the colored race, the dark races, the Englishmen, the Indians, the Chinamen. But until you feel the love of God and know it's in them, you cannot really know that and realize that. And so that's why meditation is so wonderful, because it helps us to know truth. And truth, as Jesus said, will make us free. And the truth will change the hearts of men, and lasting peace will come upon earth. As I have said, we all know that, but until we realize these things, we will not understand that one consciousness, one life, And one love flows through each and every one that you meet, no matter where they are or where they come from. It makes it very simple. But without that love of God, it's difficult. You may want to. You may have great ideals. But until that healing power of God's love is felt and known by you, you cannot put those ideals into operation. But when it does come in, it's so easy, because the truth will make you free from all delusion, all deficiencies, all prejudices, and all attachment. Such is the power of God's love. A little story at this time which illustrates this point which I've tried to bring out to you. The story of Abraham and Lot. Abraham and Lot had many herds of sheep. And as is the custom, we see it every day in our earthly existence, trouble arose between the herdsmen, and there were always struggles and fights and such things. And so, finally, to solve the situation, Abraham turned to the underlying reality, which is and should be the cause of lasting peace on earth. Abraham said to Lot, he said, "Let there be no strife between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, for are we not all brothers?" Now you take two people at war against one another, or two nations, you can talk for hours and days and years. That will not make them resist one another. But if they could realize that one God's blood flowed through all the people, as Abraham spoke of, are we not brothers? And they felt and knew it, not just in idea, then it would be a simple matter to remove war from the face of the earth. And so remember that story of Abraham and Lot the next time some strife comes to you from your neighbors or wherever it comes from. Let there be no strife between us, your herdsman and my herdsman, for are we not all brothers? Blessed are the peacemakers, for they are called the children of God. Now, how to do this? How to do this? Through practice of yoga, the yoga of salvation, which gives freedom from attachment to this worldly living and this bodily existence. The practice of true yoga, yoga of salvation, will give you the realization that you are not this body first, and secondly, that you are one with the infinite Father. It'll give you contact with Him, finally communion, and finally friendship eternal. That's what the yoga will do. Right yoga. By that I mean full yoga. Raja yoga, yoga of salvation, which our Master has taught to us. That will help you to do these things and make you realize that you are not separated from God. That's the key. The moment we feel apart from Him, then comes in outward consciousness of duality with the struggle of wars and all such things. On that one basis, you feel apart from God. If you felt one with Him, you wouldn't know what the word war means. That's the truth. That's the reality. Separation from God. There's only two things which you must fight against, or fight for one and against the other. Union with God, and the other is separation from Him. That's why the saint of long ago said, "Of God no man can think." You're separated from God. These are eternal truths. Now, if you want to do your part in ridding the world of war, realize that through meditation. Know God, contact Him, feel oneness with Him. Then when you're apart from Him, you'll know it, and you'll scamper back to His presence. Of God no man can think. Now, that doesn't mean the cessation of thought, otherwise we'll all fall apart. But it does mean that when you will it, you can leave the outside existence apart, you can stop thought, and you can feel your oneness with the love of God. That's what it means. And that's what we should be able to do at will. Feel the presence of God, that's all. And then as you do your daily duty, performing your task as a part of the dream, it'll be very easy. It's when you're attached to the dream it's so difficult, when you have to do those difficult things. And when feeling pulls you this way and pulls you that way, and when you are subject to your feelings, then you are subject to the limiting laws of this creation. Oneness with God is the answer. And the ways and the means are through yoga, which means union with God. And that yoga, salvation yoga, has been given to us through the teachings of our Master and the great example which he set. And so if we do these things of which I have spoken, and then you can see there can be an unseen league of hearts, so to speak. As you walk into this church, you will feel the consciousness of the league of hearts of all, because God is expressing himself through our hearts right now. If you walk into a den of iniquity, you'll feel something different. And so when we realize the presence of God, the league of hearts is easily accomplished, and the spiritual league of nations will be a reality. Not as it is now. It's an effort. It's an attempt to the real thing, to attain the real thing. But that league of nations will be a spiritual league of nations, the members of which have had their hearts changed by the power of God's love, and there is a union of their hearts. Swami Ram said, "Peace like a river flows through me." What do you feel now? Peace like a river flows through me. There's your answer. The cause of war, lack of that peace. Peace like a river flows through me. Master said, "Thy bliss, O Father, flows through me." Bliss consciousness, without a doubt, is God consciousness. That's what the world needs, and that's the metaphysical cause of war, is the lack of that peace which Swami Ram felt, and the peace which our Master felt and spoke of, and which each and every one of you feel at this moment. That's the power of God here with us. And when we feel that peace, not only will we have the peace on earth, but we'll have that peace of the kingdom of God, which surpasses and supersedes this earthly kingdom. Peace like a river flows through me. Get that peace which Swami Ram spoke of. You can attain it, because we're made in the image of God. We have the power, and we have his grace, if he so desires to give it to us. And I'll close by a reference from the autobiography. The effective League of Nations will be a natural, nameless league of human hearts. The broad sympathies and discerning insight needed for the healing of earthly woes cannot flow from a mere intellectual consideration of man's diversity, but from the knowledge of man's soul unity, his kinship with God. Toward realization of the world's highest ideal, peace through brotherhood, may yoga, the scientific appeal, the science of personal contact with the divine, spread through all nations and all lands. Finally, from Master's Metaphysical Meditation, I will find perpetual celestial happiness within. Peace will reign in the silence or in the midst of activity. Let me hear thy voice, O God, in the cave of meditation. If we can attain this peace, then no matter whether we are very active in outward living, no matter how many troubles descend upon us, it is possible to feel the peace of God through every condition, under every circumstance. Having that, we will do our part, bring about the cessation of war and lasting peace. Peace like a river flows through me. Thy bliss, O Father, flows through me.